What if I told you that despite their illustrious and flamboyant lifestyles, many Hollywood legends still manage to keep certain parts of their lives hidden until their passing? Secrets no one could have ever suspected. From a long-lost album considered a parting gift to a legend's quiet philanthropic efforts, here are 20 icons and a glimpse into their creative lives that remained in the shadows until the very end. Natalie Cole. When you hear the name Natalie Cole, the first that probably comes to your mind would be her smooth, soulful hits like This Will Be, or her unforgettable duet with her late father, Nat King Cole. But what fans didn't know was that behind her broad smile and legendary voice, she was quietly battling daily for her life. After her passing in 2015, the world learned that Natalie had been undergoing treatment for idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension, a rare lung disease she developed after a kidney transplant. And here's the kicker: her health struggles were linked to a past she had worked so hard to leave behind. Back in the 80s, Natalie had a well-documented struggle with drug addiction, which led to severe health issues later in life. Even though she turned her life around, her body still suffered the consequences. She had secretly been undergoing dialysis and dealing with serious health problems, but she kept performing and touring like a pro. She never wanted to be seen as weak or have people pity her. Even when she was struggling, she still gave everything to her music. But after her passing, fans realized just how much she had endured while keeping that powerful voice alive. Aretha Franklin. Now, Aretha Franklin wasn't just the queen of soul. She has also proven herself to be the queen of surprises, even after she was gone. When she passed away in 2018, everyone assumed she had all her affairs in order. I mean, this was a woman who demanded respect. Surely she had a will, right? Wrong. For months, her family thought she had died without leaving a will, but then, plot twist, not one, not two, but 3 handwritten wills were discovered in her home. And where did they find one of them? Stuffed inside her couch cushions? You can't make this up. Now, these weren't your regular lawyer-approved documents. Nope, these were handwritten notes with scribbles, cross-outs, and last-minute changes. Some of them contradicted each other, which led to a long and messy legal battle over who would inherit her massive estate. But wait, there's more? After her death, it was revealed that despite being a music icon, Aretha owed the IRS nearly $8 million in unpaid taxes. Yep, while she was out there blessing the world with timeless classics, the tax man was knocking at her door. The whole situation was wild: secret wills, a money mystery, and a courtroom showdown that lasted for years. But if one thing's for sure, Aretha was a legend even in her secrets. Only a queen could leave behind a mystery this dramatic without losing her spot on the chain. Whitney Houston wasn't just a singer, she was the voice. She had a presence so powerful that she could take a song and turn it into a full-on experience. But behind the glamour, the hit records, and that once-in-a-lifetime talent, there were deep, painful secrets that only came to light after she was gone. Whitney Houston. After her passing in 2012, a revelation about her came to light that stunned Hollywood. It was discovered that Whitney had been a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And not just by anyone, but allegedly by a female family member. This revelation, shared by her own brother, explained so much about the inner struggles she faced throughout her life. The pressure of fame, the need to escape, and her complicated relationships. It all had deeper roots than anyone had imagined. It didn't end there. There's something even more heartbreaking that was discovered about her. Her autopsy report exposed just how much her body had been through. She had 11 missing teeth, scars from past injuries, and even a wig that was sewn onto her existing hair. Years of substance abuse and stress had left her heart in terrible condition, and doctors found she was already battling serious health issues before that tragic night in the Beverly Hilton bathtub. As if that wasn't enough, her daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, met an eerily similar fate. 3 years later, she was found unresponsive in a bathtub, just like her mother. She remained in a coma for months before passing away. It was almost as if history repeated itself, leaving fans devastated and wondering if Bobby Christina had been trapped in the same cycle as her mother. Whitney Houston gave the world the greatest love of all, but behind the music, she carried burdens no one could have imagined. Michael Jackson. Now let's talk about the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson. This legend wasn't just a musician, he was a global phenomenon. But when he died in 2009, the world didn't just lose a star. It uncovered a whole vault of secrets that people still can't stop talking about. Michael was known for his ever-changing looks, but his autopsy revealed shocking details about what was really going on. At the time of his death, he weighed only 113 pounds. That's dangerously underweight for an adult man. His body was covered in scars, not just from cosmetic surgery, but from decades of medical treatments, injections, and physical wear. And here's something wild. His scalp had a tattoo to make it look like he had a full head of hair. Yep, Michael had been bald for years and used permanent ink to create the illusion of his signature hairline. That's how committed he was to his image. And if you think you've heard all of Michael's music, think again. After his death, a hidden stash of unreleased songs was found in an abandoned storage unit in California. Some of these tracks, recorded in the late 80s and early 90s, had never been heard by the public. One of them, called Truth on Youth, even featured LL Cool J. But due to legal battles and estate complications, these tracks might never be officially released. Now, here's something nobody saw coming. Years after his passing, documents revealed that Michael Jackson's name was found in Jeffrey Epstein's contact list. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, there's no proof of any wrongdoing, but the connection alone was enough to raise eyebrows. How did the king of pop end up in the same circles as one of the most infamous figures in modern history? That's a mystery we may never fully understand. Michael Jackson was more than just a pop sensation. He was a walking wonder, and even in death, the secrets just keep coming. But wait until you hear the next secret that is about to drop. Teena Marie. Teena Marie was called the Ivory Queen of Soul after she captivated the world with larger-than-life performances and deep, emotional lyrics. But behind the music and the stage lights, she endured burdens that most people never knew about until after she was gone. In her later years, she suffered from a series of health issues that she kept private. A freak accident in a hotel left her with a severe concussion after a picture frame fell on her head. As if that wasn't enough, a heavy refrigerator also fell on her, adding to her health struggles. These incidents took a toll on her, but she kept pushing forward, never letting the world see just how much she was struggling. And then there were her financial troubles. Despite her success, Teena Marie faced major financial setbacks, especially after signing with Cash Money Records. Things took a bad turn when Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, affecting the label's ability to promote her album, Sapphire. Many never realized the financial hardship she endured in her final years, as she maintained her dignity and continued to create music until the very end. James Ingram. James Ingram. Now that's a voice you don't forget. Smooth, soulful, and packed with so much emotion, it could make even the toughest hearts melt. From the moment he stepped into the spotlight, James was destined to be an R&B great. But what most people didn't know was that behind that legendary voice, he was fighting a silent battle, one he never spoke about until the very end. Born in Akron, Ohio, James started his music journey playing in a band and even working as a session musician for Ray Charles. But it wasn't long before he got his big break. Quincy Jones, yes, that Quincy Jones, discovered him, and the rest was history. James's voice graced hit after hit, from the #1 smash, Baby, Come to Me, with Patty Austin, to the unforgettable Somewhere Out There with Linda Ronstadt. Oh, and let's not forget his Grammy-winning anthem, Ya Mo Be There, with Michael McDonald. This man had the magic touch when it came to timeless love songs. But while the world saw the talented singer-songwriter, James was privately dealing with something much bigger: brain cancer. And true to his nature, he kept it to himself, never wanting to shift the focus from his music to his struggles. Fans had no idea what he was going through until after he passed in 2019 at the age of 66. The news came as a shock to many, proving just how much he kept his personal battles hidden from the spotlight. Despite his illness, James kept giving the world beautiful music. His catalog of hits still makes people fall in love, reminisce, and feel deeply, just as he intended. He may be gone, but his voice and legacy, oh, they're definitely still here. James Ingram lived for his music. He poured his soul into every note, and even when life threw its toughest challenges at him, he didn't let it overshadow his passion. That's what true legends do. They leave behind a sound, a feeling, a moment in time that never fades. And James, he did exactly that. Otis Redding. Otis Redding was the voice of pure, raw soul. The man could sing. His breakout hit, These Arms of Mine, put him on the map, and from there, it was a non-stop ride to the top. He gave us classics like Try a Little Tenderness and Respect, yes, before Aretha turned it into a powerhouse anthem. But what truly made Otis legendary? Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. That song defined him. But here's what most people don't know. Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay was never meant to be his final song. In fact, Otis had dozens of unreleased songs at the time of his death. He had just wrapped up a recording session when, the very next day, tragedy struck. On December 10, 1967, his plane crashed into a freezing Wisconsin lake. He was only 26. The world lost him way too soon. After his passing, the world discovered something unexpected. Otis had been experimenting with his sound. He was shifting away from his usual Southern soul vibe, trying out a new, more introspective, almost folk-inspired style. Dock of the Bay was the first hint of that transformation, and sadly, we never got to see where he was headed. Even crazier? The whistling at the end of Dock of the Bay? That wasn't supposed to stay in the final version. Otis had planned to go back and add lyrics, but fate had other plans. Sam Cooke. Now, if we're talking about game changers, Sam Cooke is the name. This man wasn't just an R&B singer, he was a movement. With hits like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me, he brought gospel and soul into the mainstream and paved the way for artists like Marvin Gaye and Al Green. But behind the smooth voice and polished stage presence was a life full of mystery, controversy, and an ending that still doesn't sit right with a lot of people. Sam Cooke's death in 1964 remains one of the most debated in music history. Officially, he was shot by a motel manager in what was ruled as a justifiable homicide. The story goes that Sam had been out with a woman who later claimed he kidnapped her. She ran off with his clothes, and in a frantic search for her, a half-dressed Sam ended up at the motel's office, demanding answers. That's when the manager, Bertha Franklin, shot him, claiming self-defense. But here's the thing, so many details don't add up. His family, friends, and even fellow musicians believed he was set up. Some say it was a robbery gone wrong. Others claimed the music industry, especially certain powerful figures who weren't happy about Sam fighting for black artists' rights, had a hand in it. Even crazier? After his death, people learned just how much Sam had been working behind the scenes to change the music industry. He was pushing for artists to own their music, a radical idea at the time. He had even started his own record label and publishing company, which gave black artists more control over their work. That kind of power made a lot of industry executives very uncomfortable. Whether his death was a tragic accident or something more sinister, one thing's for sure. Sam Cooke left behind a legacy of music, activism, and change. His song, A Change Is Gonna Come, became an anthem for the civil rights movement, proving that even in death, his voice could not be silenced. Next up is a voice that is still regarded as one of the most beloved in R&B history, But few truly knew the pain behind her music. Join the ride as we uncover more iconic secrets. Tammy Terrell. If you've ever heard "Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing," or "You're All I Need to Get By," then you know Tammy Terrell's voice, her chemistry with Marvin Gaye, was pure magic. Their duets defined romance, passion, and soul, but Tammy's life was far from the fairy tale her music painted. What most people didn't know was that she suffered from constant physical pain while recording some of her biggest hits. At just 22 years old, she collapsed into Marvin Gaye's arms on stage during a performance in 1967. That terrifying moment led to a devastating diagnosis: a malignant brain tumor. She underwent 8 surgeries, but the condition kept worsening. And here's the part that wasn't public knowledge for years. Tammy wasn't just battling illness. She was also dealing with severe personal struggles, including reported physical abuse from a past relationship with a famous singer. Those close to her have since revealed that the emotional and physical trauma she endured may have played a role in her declining health. Motown tried to keep her condition under wraps, but it was Marvin Gaye, her closest musical partner, who took it the hardest. After her passing in 1970, at just 24 years old, Marvin spiraled into a deep depression. Some say her death is what led to his darker, more introspective music in the years that followed, including What's Going On, Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway was the soul of soul music. His voice carried warmth, depth, and a certain magic that made songs like A Song for You, Someday We'll All Be Free, and the closer I Get to You with Roberta Flack feel almost spiritual. He was a true musical genius. But beneath that genius was a struggle that the world didn't fully understand until it was too late. Donny was battling paranoid schizophrenia, a condition that deeply affected his life and career. Even at the height of his success, he was hearing voices and experiencing delusions, something that made working in the industry extremely difficult. Many of his closest collaborators, including Roberta Flack, saw firsthand how much he struggled. But back then, mental health wasn't talked about the way it is today. In the months leading up to his death, Donny had started working on new music, and for a moment, it seemed like things were looking up. But on January 13th, 1979, tragedy struck. He was found dead outside his New York hotel, having fallen from the 15th floor. Officially, it was ruled a suicide, but even today, many believe there's more to the story. Those who knew Donny said he had been in good spirits that day, excited about his upcoming work. So, did he jump, or was there something more to his death? We may never know, but what we do know is that Donny Hathaway left behind some of the most heartfelt, soul-stirring music in history. His song, Someday We'll All Be Free, has since become an anthem for overcoming struggles, a message that, in hindsight, feels even more powerful given what he was going through. Etta James, the woman behind At Last, the song that has soundtracked weddings and romantic moments for decades. She had a powerhouse voice and a tough, no-nonsense attitude, but after she passed, some shocking secrets about her life were revealed. First off, Etta James never really knew who her father was, and she spent her entire life believing that she was the illegitimate daughter of legendary pool player Minnesota Fats. Her mother, who had Etta at just 14 years old, would drop vague hints, but never confirmed the truth. It wasn't until after Etta died in 2012 that people started digging deeper, and some researchers suggested that there was no real evidence linking her to Minnesota Fats at all. Was it a story her mother made up? Did Etta cling to it because it gave her a sense of identity? We may never know. And then there was the money drama. After Etta's passing, a huge battle broke out over her estate between her sons and her husband. Her family fought over control of her finances even before she died, as she struggled with Alzheimer's and leukemia in her later years. The courts had to step in, and what should have been a time of mourning turned into a messy legal battle. The most unexpected revelations about Etta, who had always been seen as a raw, street-smart rebel, was that she actually had deep insecurities about her looks. While she played up the bold, blonde, bad girl image in public, behind closed doors, she struggled with body image issues for years. She underwent multiple cosmetic surgeries to alter her appearance, something she rarely talked about. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman was the queen of elegance in R&B and jazz. Her sultry voice and striking beauty made her unforgettable, but her personal life remained a mystery until after she passed. One of the biggest secrets that surfaced after Phyllis's death was her hidden love life. Despite singing some of the most emotional love songs ever, she never married, and people assumed she simply didn't find the right person. But after her passing, close friends revealed that Phyllis had been in several deeply passionate but complicated relationships, some of which she kept hidden because they were with married men. She struggled with loneliness, and despite her larger-than-life presence, she often felt completely alone. Then there was the heartbreaking note she left behind. Phyllis had battled depression for years, and on June 30th, 1995, just a week before her 46th birthday, she ended her own life. The note she left was brutally honest. In it, she wrote, "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love know who you are. May God bless you." It was a chilling final message that showed just how deeply she had been suffering. Phyllis, despite her fame, was struggling financially. She had a reputation for being high maintenance and loving the finer things in life, but by the time she passed, she was drowning in debt. Friends later revealed that she had a pattern of overspending, lavish shopping sprees, expensive jewelry, and a luxurious lifestyle that didn't match her actual income. Secrets aren't just about health, right? If you still need proof, then stay with me, because we're about to uncover some legendary revelations that only came to light after their final curtain call. Betty Wright. Betty Wright was a force. From Clean Up Woman to Tonight is the Night, she gave us classics that still hit just as hard today. But what many didn't realize, until after she was gone, was just how much she had influenced the music industry behind the scenes. After her passing in 2020, stories started surfacing about how deeply involved she was in shaping the careers of some of the biggest names in music. Artists like Beyoncé, DJ Khaled, and Mary J. Blige had always credited her, but few knew that Betty wasn't just an inspiration. She was the go-to vocal coach and mentor for some of the greatest voices in R&B and hip-hop. She trained artists in breath control, harmonizing, and emotional delivery, and her private coaching sessions were legendary in the industry. The world missed the plain reality that Betty Wright was one of the first independent female artists to break free from the major label system. At a time when artists had little control, she created her own record label, something that was practically unheard of back then. After her death, even more stories surfaced about how she had fought against industry exploitation and helped younger artists navigate contracts and ownership rights. Bill Withers. Bill Withers was a mystery even when he was alive, but after his passing in 2020, we learned even more about the man behind Ain't No Sunshine and Lean on Me. One of the biggest shocks? Bill never actually wanted to be famous. In fact, after giving us some of the greatest soul songs of all time, he walked away from the music industry entirely and never looked back. For years, fans assumed he had been pushed out or had some kind of industry fallout, but after his death, insiders revealed the truth. Bill simply hated the music business. He despised the politics, the fake relationships, and the way record labels tried to control him. So he left it all behind on his own terms. And here's another secret. Bill Withers had zero interest in awards or industry recognition. He never showed up to the Grammys, didn't care about chart positions, and rarely did interviews. Even when he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015, he barely spoke. After his death, people who knew him best said he lived like a regular guy, cooking his own meals, running errands alone, and refusing to let fame change his simple way of life. The most shocking thing about him was that Bill Withers was a self-taught musician who couldn't even read or write music. Every hit song he ever wrote was done entirely by ear. No formal training, no music theory, just pure instinct. Bobby Womack. Bobby Womack wasn't just a legendary musician, he was one of R&B's most controversial figures. His life was filled with talent, scandal, and jaw-dropping twists. And after he passed in 2014, even more secrets about his life surfaced. For starters, one of the biggest bombshells was that Bobby Womack secretly had an affair with Sam Cooke's widow, and even married her just months after Sam Cooke was tragically killed. This alone sent shockwaves through the music world, but what people didn't know until much later was that Bobby allegedly got caught cheating on her with her own daughter. Yes, you read that right. After the scandal, his marriage ended, and he was practically exiled from the industry for a while. But here's another wild revelation. Bobby Womack wrote songs for the Rolling Stones. Most fans knew he was a soul legend, but many didn't realize that he was the genius behind It's All Over Now, the Stones' first ever #1 hit. It wasn't until after his death that more stories surfaced about just how deeply he had influenced rock music behind the scenes. Even deeper? In his later years, Bobby struggled with addiction and serious health issues, but he also kept a very personal battle to himself. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Despite this, he still managed to perform and tour, even though he later admitted in an interview that he had moments on stage where he forgot lyrics to his own songs. It wasn't until after his death that the full extent of his struggles was revealed. Vesta Williams. Vesta Williams had the voice, powerful, soulful, and unforgettable. But behind her incredible talent was a personal life filled with struggles and secrets that the world didn't fully understand until she passed in 2011. One of the biggest surprises? Vesta Williams was originally supposed to be as big as Whitney Houston. In the 1980s, she was signed to a major label and set to be the next R&B superstar. But after her death, insiders revealed that she had been quietly dropped from her label for gaining weight. Yes, seriously. In an era where image was everything, record executives felt she didn't fit the superstar look, and her career suffered because of it. But that wasn't the only heartbreaking secret that surfaced after her passing. Vesta had been struggling financially in her later years, something few people knew. She had continued to perform, but the mainstream industry had long overlooked her. Friends later revealed that she had felt deeply forgotten by the very industry she helped shape. Most po didn't even know that Vesta Williams had secretly battled addiction at the height of her career. After she died, authorities found prescription pills in her system, leading to speculation about whether it played a role in her passing. Friends later confirmed that she had struggled with dependency, though she had tried to turn her life around in her later years. Did I just hear a pin drop? Because there's no way you can hear these secrets and not need a moment of silence to process them. But don't go anywhere just yet. We still have more iconic secrets to unpack. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was a perfectionist, a musical genius, and one of the most beloved voices in R&B. But behind the smooth ballads and Grammy wins, Luther had many secrets tucked away in his closet, which only came to reality after his passing. For one, his struggle with his health was far deeper than people knew. While the public saw his frequent weight fluctuations over the years, it wasn't until after he died in 2005 that close friends revealed just how much he had battled diabetes and hypertension in private. His 2003 stroke left him unable to sing or even speak properly, yet he fought to recover without ever letting the world see his pain. And then there was the big question that lingered for years: his personal life. Luther was incredibly private, but after his death, people close to him confirmed what had long been rumored. He was gay. While it wasn't a secret to those in his inner circle, he never publicly addressed it, fearing it might affect his career, especially in a time when R&B and soul music were still heavily focused on a certain image of masculinity. Luther Vandross was obsessed with having the perfect voice to the point that he secretly re-recorded his songs multiple times, even after they were released. Some of his biggest hits, including Never Too Much and Here and Now, have multiple hidden versions that have never been made public. Imagine hearing an alternate take of a Luther classic that no one even knew existed, Rick James. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Rick James, the funk legend who lived life on the edge, and then some. Everyone knew about his wild antics, but after his passing in 2004, some crazy secrets came to light that even his biggest fans didn't see coming. For starters, Rick James secretly had a military past. Can you picture the super freak singer in a uniform? Because that actually happened. In the 1960s, he went AWOL from the U.S. Navy to pursue music, eventually getting caught and spending time in military prison. It's wild to think that before he was partying with Prince and making funk history, he was a fugitive soldier. And while everyone knew he had battles with addiction, what people didn't know was just how much money he blew through in his lifetime. After his death, it was revealed that Rick James was nearly broke, despite selling millions of records. Lavish spending, legal troubles, and his wild lifestyle drained his fortune, leaving behind a financial mess that his estate had to clean up. Barry White. Barry White's voice alone could set the mood in any room, and his music became the soundtrack for romance across generations. With classics like Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe and You're the First, The Last, My Everything, he built a legacy of passion and timeless soul. But behind the scenes, Barry White had a few secrets of his own. One of the biggest revelations after his passing? He never actually learned to read or write music. That's right, despite being a musical genius who arranged and produced countless hits, Barry White created everything by ear. He would hum melodies, sing out instrumental parts, and have session musicians translate them into full compositions. His ability to craft masterpieces without reading a single note is nothing short of extraordinary. Then there was his financial situation. While Barry White was known for his lavish lifestyle, his estate was a legal battleground after his death. Despite selling millions of records, his fortune was tangled in disputes between his longtime partner and his children. The court cases revealed just how complicated his financial affairs were, and his wealth wasn't as solid as fans might have expected. Gerald Levert. Gerald Levert came from R&B royalty. His father was Eddie Levert of the O'Jays, but he carved out his own lane with hits like Casanova and Baby Hold On To Me. His smooth voice and heartfelt lyrics made him a fan favorite, and his sudden passing in 2006 at just 40 years old shocked the world. But after he was gone, some surprising truths came to light. One of the biggest bombshells? Gerald Levert had recorded an entire album's worth of music that no one knew about. After his passing, his family discovered unreleased songs that he had been quietly working on, leading to the posthumous album In My Songs, which won him a Grammy. This meant that even after he was gone, his music lived on, proving just how dedicated he was to his craft. Then there was the heartbreaking revelation about his cause of death. Initially, people thought he had suffered a sudden heart attack, but reports later confirmed that his passing was due to a fatal interaction of prescription medications. He had been taking medicine for various health issues, and the combination tragically led to his untimely death. But perhaps one of the most touching things we learned after his passing was just how much he had given back to his community. Gerald Levert had been secretly helping aspiring artists, funding projects, and giving financial support to those in need without ever making it public. It wasn't until after his death that stories of his generosity started to surface.